This episode of the Grand Rising Show was brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. Autochthonous Assembly is a gathering of the minds that do the work. Now, for many of our first-time subscribers and first-time visitors, you may be wondering who Autochthonous Assembly are. You can find this information about our mission statement and our core values on the website at autochthonousassembly.com/about. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous American voices by using genealogy, also known as family history, or your family tree, which is the study of families and the tracing of their lineages and history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, which is essential to our success and serve as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. Those core values are, but are not limited to, integrity, which is knowing and doing what is right; respect, which is treating others the way you want to be treated; responsibility, which is embracing opportunities to contribute; and servant leadership, which is serving the common good. Now, at Autochthonous Assembly, we have a couple of goals here. And our first goal and foremost of the reason why we do everything that we do is to ensure that we help you do your genealogy and connect back to your tribe and find out where you are from. Everything that we do from the standpoint of the Grand Rising Show and all the information that's posted on the website is dedicated to that one specific purpose, helping you find your genealogy, find your relatives, find your family so that you will know exactly who you are. And if you choose to, tie back into your tribe, whether that tribe is a Native American tribe, an American Indian tribe, whether it's allowing you to determine which house in Africa that you belong to, or what clan of Scandinavia or Europe or France that you belong to. Either way, our goal is to do just that, help you find out who you are so you know exactly where to start. We are not here to tell you who you are, and we're not here to tell you who you are not. We're just here to help you discover your beginnings. Another one of our missions is to help you become financially independent so that you can help your generations for the next 7 generations and be able to put a stable foundation for you and your relatives. And if you should choose to use this information that we provide free of charge to help not only yourself, but your community and your tribe, then we will do everything in our power to make sure that gets done as well. And remember, our goal here is to make sure that we help you get exposed to this information to put you in the best situation possible. So now what I'm going to do now is return it back over to the panel to see if there was anything I missed, and I will go ahead and get set up so we can get ready and get digging into this information. Panel, take it away.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
Grand Rising, Grand Rising. How's everyone doing this rising? Hope you're doing well.
Mic check. Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising to the chat. Grand Rising to the panel. I think that's everybody.
Yo, can y'all put some ones in the chat? Let us know that y'all here and we're coming through clearly.
Yep. Mic check. Appreciate that, David Corey.
Those are preemptive ones. I saw those before we said anything.
I know, right? As soon as the A2 slam came on, he's like, up ones. That's what's up.
So hopefully y'all like the new intros with the new commercials. We still got some things to tweak as far as the public service announcement, but wanted to change it up a little bit, just a little bit. So hopefully y'all enjoyed it. And y'all know when it comes to Bones, he's always going to be doing something creative with the intro music. So Bones, do a mic check right quick so we can make sure we hear you. You must be busy.
Mic check, 1 2 1 2.
Can y'all hear Bones? Okay, good. All right. Grand Rising Arthur Gray. Grand Rising Big Hawk. Grand Rising David Corey. Grand Rising Taekwondo Jackson 1. Oh, he put a 1 in there, my bad. Grand Rising Pamela Hall. Grand Rising Mike Easton. Grand Rising Shiva Primal. Prince William County representing. Grand Rising Enrique. Grand Rising No Sellout. Grand Rising Copper Chopper. Grand Rising Cab. Make sure we got everybody. Grand Rising Copper Color Queen.
Grand Rising Arthur Gray. What's going on?
Grand Rising Doodoo Vision. What's going on, bro? We want to say Grand Rising and give a shout out to the new subscribers and also to those of you who are listening and taking this information and using it to the benefit of your communities and your relatives. So Bones, we got some unpacking to do with this information, sir. What say you? Let me go ahead and stop pulling this information up. I hope y'all are ready, because this is about to get really interesting really fast. Let's see. There it is. So we're going to be talking today about the Crusades, the Knights of Templars, and the Ottoman Empire. And they coincide with the Northern Wars, which was the reason for the title. And you'll see how all this collided and why it makes sense. So we're going to be presenting, exposing or re-exposing or re-presenting information to you. And yeah. Grand Rising Jay Susquehanna. Hope you're doing well this rising. Do this. Uh-huh. For whatever reason, my dual monitors are acting goofy today, so bear with me, please. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the link to the Crusades in the chat so you can follow along. That'll make it easier for you to go back later, do your own research. If there's anything that's missing that needs to be corrected, you will have the links that we use to do so. And, keep us straight. Make sure that we're getting it right. So before I get started, is there anything anybody on the panel want to say about the Crusades, about the Knights of Templar, about the Ottoman Empire versus the Northern Wars? And with that, I will take that as a no. So let's go ahead and set the scene with the construction. All right. So yesterday we were talking about the Northern Wars, and we were looking at how the Vikings got separated. Looked at what started some of these wars between Russia and Sweden, which seemed to be what the majority of the war that kicked it out because of a tribute that Russia wanted Sweden to pay, and Sweden didn't want to pay it, so that's what started that first war. And it pretty much carried on for almost 30 years. And while that war was going on, the Crusades war was going on. And like Do Division says, Northern Wars equals Nordic Wars, equals Gaelic Wars, equals Battlestar Galactica. So from the standpoint and perspective of, you have these Northern Wars going on, and at the same time we have the Crusades going on. And the Crusades were going on because there was a religious war. So let's go ahead and look into the Crusades, and then we're going to touch on the Knights of Templar and the Ottoman Empire, because those were the two, for lack of a better term, the way history points out, religious orders, if you will, that were battling. So I'm reading from Wikipedia when it talks about the Crusades, and it goes on to read that the Crusades were a series of religious wars sanctioned by the Latin Church in the medieval period. The most commonly known Crusades are the campaign in the Eastern Mediterranean aimed at recovering the Holy Land from Muslim rule. The term crusade is also applied to other church-sanctioned campaigns. These were fought for a variety of reasons, including the suppression of paganism and heresy, the resolution of conflict among rival Roman Catholic groups, or for political and territorial advantage. At the time of the early Crusades, the word did not exist. The word did not exist, and it only became a leading descriptive term in English around the year 1760. So the term crusade only came about pretty much 300 years after the First Crusade happened or so. And what's interesting is that they said these were holy wars or religious wars that were sanctioned by the Latin Church. So let's make sure we know what they mean when they say Latin Church. What is a Latin Church? The Latin Church, also known as the Western Church or the Roman Catholic Church, is the largest particular church of the Catholic Church, employing the Latin liturgical sites. It is one of 24 Swedish churches, the 23 others forming the Eastern Catholic churches. It is headed by the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, traditionally also called the Patriarch of the West, with cathedra in this role at the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran in Rome, Italy. The Latin Church traces its history to the earliest days of Christianity, according to Catholic tradition, through its direct leadership under the Holy See. I see Jay got mum's the word. So, the Roman Catholic Church sanctioned the Crusades. So it's also safe to say they started the Crusades, right? Islam was taking effect in the Mediterranean, or what they call the Middle East, and the Catholic Church wasn't having it. Because as we know from some of the earlier information that many have shared, the religion was used to unify the people after there was a takeover, to give them something to hold on to, and in some instances allowed them to keep some of their rituals while instituting the new religion or the religion of the conquering party. So when you had Islam sweeping in, that kind of defeated what the Catholic Church in Rome was trying to accomplish. So let's read a little further about the Crusade. In 1095, Pope Urban II called for the First Crusade in a sermon at the Council of Clermont. He encouraged military support for the Byzantine Empire and its emperor, Alexios I, who needed reinforcements for his conflict with westward migrating Turks colonizing Anatolia. One of the Urban's aims was to guarantee pilgrims access to the Eastern Mediterranean holy sites under Muslim control. Let's see. It said that the Pope encouraged military support for the Byzantine Empire. You know, the Byzantine Empire were the dub emperors at that time, who eventually got overran during the Northern Wars, and the dub Vikings of them, or the dub commoners of them, were sent to America as Slavs and eventually became slaves. So it says that he encouraged the military to support the Byzantine Empire and his emperor, Alexios I, who needed reinforcements for his conflict with the westward migrating Turks colonizing Anatolia. Since one of Urban's main aims was to guarantee pilgrims access to the Western Mediterranean holy sites under Muslim control. So he needed a way for those individuals to have their pilgrimage or go to the Holy Land without being interfered with by the Turks or the individuals that were the soldiers for the Turks. It says, scholars disagree over whether this was the primary motive for Urban or for those who heeded his call. Urban's strategy may have been to unite the eastern and western branches of the church, which had been divided since the east and west schisms of 1054 and to establish himself as head of the unified church. The initial success of the crusade established the first four crusader states in the eastern Mediterranean: the County of Edessa, the Principality of Antioch, the Kingdom of Jerusalem, and the County of Tripoli. The enthusiastic response to Urban's preaching across all social strata in Western Europe established a precedent for other crusades. Volunteers became crusaders by taking a public vow and receiving plenary indulgences from the church. Wait a minute. What? Plenary indulgences. I'm not quite sure I've ever seen that term before. Let's take a look at what it means. Plenary indulgences. It's also put in the chat as well. It says, in teaching of the Roman Catholic Church, an indulgence is a way to reduce the amount of punishment one has to endure for sins. It may reduce the temporal punishment for sin after death, as opposed to eternal punishment merited by mortal sin, in a state or process of purification called purgatory. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, say that 3 times fast, describes an indulgence as a remission before God of the temporal punishment due to sins whose guilt has already been forgiven, which the faithful Christian who is duly disposed gains under certain prescribed conditions through the action of the church, which, as the minister of redemption, dispenses and applies with authority the treasury of the satisfactions of Christ and all of the saints. So as to reduce the amount of punishment that they were going to receive for sins. Maybe somebody can further explain that when they get a chance, because that makes no sense to me. And again, maybe I have to be under the understanding of Catholicism as a whole to get it. So we're going to move on. We're going to stick a pin in that. So it goes on to read that some were hoping for mass ascension into heaven at Jerusalem or God's forgiveness for their sins. Others participated to satisfy feudal obligations, obtain glory and honor, or to seek economic and political gain. Okay, so we know what the feudal system is. The feudal system is a caste system where you have certain levels of royalty and you have certain levels of commoners all the way down to the poorest of the poor. Mike Easton says, would Constantine have something to do with it? It's very possible. And Big Hawk says also, how long has the Quran been around to this point?
It's a good question.
Let me see if I can find out. Okay. Let me put this in the chat. Alright, the Quran. The literal meaning also romanizes Quran or Quran is the central religious text of Islam, which Muslims believe to be a revelation from God, Allah. It is widely regarded as the finest work in classical Arabic literature. The Quran is divided into chapters, or surahs, which are subdivided into verses. Muslims believe that the Quran was originally revealed by God to the final prophet Muhammad through the archangel Gabriel, incrementally over the period of some 23 years, beginning on the 22nd of December 609 CE. So hopefully that answers your question. 22 December 609 CE. It says when Muhammad was 40 and concluded in 632, the year of his death, Muslims regarded the Quran as Muhammad's most important miracle, a proof of his prophethood, and the culmination of a series of divine messages, starting with those revealed to Adam and ending with Muhammad. The word Quran occurs some 70 times in the Quran's text, and other names and words are also said to refer to the Quran. So, he started receiving it 22 December 609 CE, and it was concluded, I guess the revelations were concluded in 632 CE. So Big Hawk, hopefully that answers your question. So
I made it back.
I was just going over the Quran because Big Hawk had a question about when it was written, or how long had it been around. So.
Oh yeah, the 6th, 7th century, going back to the Blue Quran. But y'all probably touched over that already.
Yeah, I just gave a brief definition and explanation according to Wikipedia. So I was going over the going over the Crusades and how it collides, for lack of a better term, with the Northern Wars, which are basically the Nordic Wars, the Gaelic Wars, which ultimately resided or culminated into the Dub, which is an Irish term for dark or black, Vikings and Dub commoners, and Dub royalty being sent to America as Slavs. So, and the whole purpose of the Crusades was, which was sanctioned by the Roman Catholic Church, was to allow their individuals and pilgrims to be able to get to the Holy Land without interference from the Turks and the Ottoman Empire. So who were these individuals that were sanctioned to guard, if you will, or escort these individuals to make this pilgrimage? Any takers, any takers, any takers? Anybody know? The Knights of Templar. So, the Knights of Templar. I put the link in the chat. Exactly, Mike Eason. They were basically the bodyguards for the pilgrims. And these pilgrims that they were guarding were those that are of the Catholic faith. So, that's the Crusades, right? So it goes on to read that the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Templar of Solomon, that was one of the names they went by, also known as the Order of Solomon's Temple, the Knights Templar, or simply the Templars. See, I stand corrected. I kept putting "of" in there, and it's not even the Knights of Templar. It's the Knights Templar. Okay. They were a Catholic military order recognized in 1139 by the papal bull Omni Datum Optimum. The order was founded in 1119 and was active until 1312, when it was perpetually suppressed by Pope Clement V by the bull Vox in Excluso. The Templars became a favorite charity throughout Christendom and grew rapidly in membership and power. Hold on. they became a favorite charity. Why would they be considered a charity? Were they not paid? Were they volunteers?
They were paid through the church.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out why they became a favorite charity. Were they a non-profit organization? Anyway, it says they grew rapidly in membership and power. They were prominent in Christian finance. Templar Knights, in their distinctive white mantles with a red cross, were among the most skilled fighting units of the Crusades. Non-combatant members of the order, who formed as much as 90% of the order's members, managed a large economic infrastructure through Christendom. Whoa. Hold on.
Did you just hear that?
90%
of the Templars were not soldiers.
Hold up.
Aha.
Wait a cotton picking minute, Grand Rising Jaguar. I'm gonna read this one more again. It says they were among the most skilled fighting units of the Crusades. Non-combatant members of the order, who formed as much as 90% of the order's members, managed a large economic infrastructure throughout Christendom, developing innovative financial techniques that were on an early form of banking. What? Building its own network of nearly 1,000 commanderies and fortifications across Europe and the Holy Land, and arguably forming the world's first multinational corporation. Stop.
Bingo. Been waiting on that.
I don't want to fight no more. Bones H. McCoy. What am I reading?
The Truth on the Knights Templars.
90% of them Bammers didn't even fight. They were bankers.
Yep. The fighters were nothing but paid mercenaries that came from different groups. They wasn't a religious set. That's why before they left out to go on the Crusades, the so-called priests prayed for everybody in the sins that they were going to do.
Got to be more careful.
Hitman for the bank. Hitman for the bank.
I got one word for that.
They were the first on-callers before on-callers. These people that was going across, there wasn't anybody that was escorting. They escorting people that got money, wealth, power, influence. Templars ain't escorting just no any old body cross no land. Really?
Yeah, that makes sense. So they weren't doing it to be charitable, even though they was considered the favorite charity of the Catholic Church.
Yeah, they say they're the favorite charity, because how did the church collect this money from the people who gave it in as charity?
Bingo. Well, thank you for that clarification. It goes on to read that the Templars were closely tied to the Crusades. When the Holy Land was lost, support for the order faded. Rumors about the Templars' secret initiation ceremony created distrust, and King Philip IV of France, deeply in debt to the order, took advantage of this distrust to destroy them and erase his debt. Doesn't this sound
familiar? The Templars in the church now? What really split the Templars in the church?
But doesn't it sound familiar? And why is it always France? The French? Man, come on.
That's who's behind it all, whether people like it or not. Them Franks, them relatives over there, not all relatives, they are related.
So, Bones, I'm going to read this part again and tell me who this reminds you of, or what this situation reminds you of in America. It says, The rumors about the Templars' secret initiation ceremony created distrust, and King Philip IV of France, deeply in debt to the order, took advantage of this distrust and destroyed them and erased his debt. Who does that sound like? Who else did that happen to? Who did the French owe money to in Americas?
Mm-hmm.
When they was doing business with them and being the middleman and having them do all the work.
Yeah, doing business with the Indians, owed money. It was time to pay, so they came up with another way.
Created distrust among the Indians and made them fight. Then they made the Indians fight for their cause. Protestants against the Catholics. Then eventually became...
In the end, we left whole in the bag. They just didn't tell you it was full of garbage.
Yeah, I know, right? Then it became... If we went from Protestant versus Catholic to Finns versus Dubs. And for those of you who don't know what that means, those are Irish terms. Finn means white or pale, and Dub means dark or black. From the term Dubgail and Fingal when describing Vikings. So it says in 1307 he had many of the order's members in France arrested, tortured into giving false confessions, and burned at the stake. Man, stop playing.
Mm-hmm.
They were tortured into giving false confessions and burned at the stake. Pope Clement V disbanded the order in 1312 under pressure from King Philip. The abrupt reduction in power of the significant group in Europe's society gave rise to speculation, legend, and legacy through the ages. Hold on, Hold on
1 second.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify something that you read that stuck out that we always talk about.
Mm-hmm.
The king told the Pope what to do, right?
Man, I was just about to do that. Get out my head.
Well, all these people who think it go the other way around, no, that's what you were told. But the kings always commanded and told the popes what to do.
That's why Napoleon was able to take the papacy from the Pope.
Kick him out. Get out of here.
So if you the Pope and you run that stuff, why does a king tell you what to do? Exactly, Jaguar. Finland and Dubland. And Bones, didn't we do some research? And discover that Finland is north and Dublin is south?
Yes, they are.
Now, where are the majority of our Dub brothers and sisters in the United States? A large majority of us in the south, right? Oh, okay.
In the south.
It's not a coincidence.
The majority of your Finn-looking people in America in the north.
Coincidence? I don't think so.
Nah.
So, man, these knockers. Crazy. So, let's talk about the rise of the Crusade, because they're going to collide with the Ottoman Empire, which we're going to talk about. But before that, there's another sect of these Templars that we're going to have to talk about. And I don't know if it's going to cover it here, but we'll talk about it. Did they mention them? But make sure the chat. Grand Rising Free, she says there's no such thing as coincidence. I know, right? I was looking for the their counterparts to the Knights Templar. It doesn't really talk about them or make mention of them, but we're going to talk about the rise of the Knights Templar. It says, after Europeans in the First Crusade captured Jerusalem in 1099, many Christians made pilgrimages to various sacred sites in the Holy Land. Although the city of Jerusalem was relatively secure under Christian control, the rest of Outer Rimmer was not. Outer Rimmer, Atrimir, was not. Bandits and marauding highwaymen preyed upon these Christian pilgrims, who were routinely slaughtered, sometimes by the hundreds, as they attempted to make the journey from the coastline at Jaffa through to the interior of the Holy Land. Good grief. Bandits. Now, who else did they say? And highwaymen. Well, those is that those individuals from like the movie Robin Hood, or is that something different?
What was your question again? Somebody asked you something real quick.
I said because they're talking about the reason for the Crusades was because the rest of Atrimir was not secure. Bandits and marauding highwaymen preyed upon these Christian pilgrims. So I was wondering if this is where these bandits and highwaymen were, where the movie Robin Hood came from.
Well, it's dealing with it at the same time.
Okay.
It's at the same time frame. Robin Hood takes place during the Crusades.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why the king and them was off. Remember in the story, the king and all them was all fighting in the Crusades.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the other dude was got his name supposedly trying to take power and overtaxing people. Lionheart was all fighting.
Wow. J. Cycles Hunter said, no, that's England. Okay. I'm just trying to get it straight. All these time convergence. It says in 1119, the French knight Hughes de Payens approached King Baldwin II of Jerusalem. So the French knight Hughes de Payens approached King Baldwin II of Jerusalem and Marmont, Patriarch of Jerusalem, and proposed creating a monastic order for the protection of these pilgrims. Did y'all just hear that?
Mm-hmm.
It said Knight Hughes de Payens. Who were they? Or who are they? I'm sure they've been covered before, but this is my first time hearing about it. Jay says, no worries, Jay, we got you, bro. It's all good. So, Hughes de Payens, or Paynes, was the co-founder and first Grand Master of the Knights Templar in association with Bernard of Clairvaux. He created the Latin rule, the code of behavior for the order. The majority of the primary sources of information for his life are presented in Latin or medieval French language. In French, his name usually appears as Hughes de Payens or Paynes. His earliest certain appearance in documents is under the part Latin, part French name Hugo de Payens. Later, Latin source calls him Hugo de Paganism. In English works, he often appears as Hugh de Payens. In Italian, sometimes as Ugo de Pagani. You got a lot of names on it. It says there is no early biography of Hughes de Payens in existence, nor do later writers cite such biography. Of course not, because he's a Huguenot. LJ Free says, how are you going to be robbing people when you form to protect? Some of the boys in blue must be taking a page from their book. So that's who the Hughes of Pain was. So the Hughes of Pain, who bent the ear of King Baldwin II of Jerusalem, had already formed the order of the Knight Templar because he was the founder and created the Latin rule. Doodle Vision said that's Prester John's folks. That's who said that's who the Prester John folks are infuriated with. Interesting. So you may have to come on and explain that part. For some of us that don't know what you're talking about. It goes on to say that King Baldwin and Patriarch Warmund agreed to the request probably at the Council of Nablus in January 1120, and the king granted the Templars a headquarters in a wing of the royal palace on the Temple Mount in the captured Al-Aqsa Mosque. Excuse me. The Temple Mount had a mystique because it was above what was believed to be the ruins of the Temple of Solomon. The Crusaders, therefore, referred to Al-Aqsa Mosque as Solomon's Temple. And from this location, the new order took the name the Poor Knights of Christ and the Temple of Solomon. Excuse me. Okay. The order with about 9 knights included Godfrey de Saint-Omer and Andre de Montbard, and few financial resources, and relied on donations to survive. Hold on. Yeah, it just ends weird. They had few financial resources and relied on donations to survive. Their emblem was of 2 knights riding on a single horse, emphasizing the order's poverty. 2 knights riding on a single horse. Okay. Sounds a bit strange, but I'll go with it. The impoverished status of the Templars did not last long. They had a powerful advocate in Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, a leading church figure, the French abbot, primarily responsible for the founding of the Cistercian order of monks, and a nephew of Andre de Montbard, one of the founding knights. Bernard put his weight behind them and wrote persuasively on their behalf in the letter in praise of the new king and the new knighthood. And in 1129, the Council of Torres, he led a group of leading churchmen to officially approve and endorse the order on behalf of the church with his formal blessing. The Templars became a favorite charity throughout Christendom, receiving money, land, business, and noble-born sons from families who were eager to help with the fight in the Holy Lands. That's what they mean. Okay. So people were just giving them money and stuff. I know, Jaguar. I didn't want to say that. He said, sounds a little funny. 2 men on a horse. I'm sorry.
Crowdfunding. That's all they were doing. Crowdfunding.
Then it goes on to read, another major benefit came in 1139 when Pope Innocent II, Papal Bull Omni Datum Optimum, exempted the order from obedience to local laws. Wait, what? They were exempted, or exempt, excuse me. Towel water coming out. They were exempt from obeying local laws. This ruling meant that the Templars could pass freely through all borders, were not required to pay any taxes, and were exempt from all authority except of the Pope. Stop.
The Pope's non-profit.
Hold on. Let me read this to you again, Bones. And I want you to tell me who this sounds like to you. Let me go back. It says, this ruling meant that the Templars could pass freely through all borders, were not required to pay any taxes, and were exempt from all authority except that of the Pope.
That don't sound like no company CEO tribal type of stuff going on there.
That sounds like sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like what the, as Bones would put it, the fake KKK were trying to do after the those amendments were passed to help the what you call the blacks, and they started trying to separate from the states and be exempt. And then we have individuals who are trying to do the same thing now. I mean, does that not sound familiar? Or am I reaching?
But now let's take the veil off of it and look at what's really happening here. Knights Templars at this time is nothing but a banker.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're giving bankers immunity to be above the law.
Too big to fail? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Enrique said that sounds like the Jesuits.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
who started your banking?
That's who we've been talking about for the past month now. Or should I say
first banking came from them. Now you can see this banking system, in a sense, getting the charter from the Pope. Technically, that was what that is, a charter to do business freely, move back and forth to do business, commerce with different places, and you don't have to pay taxes for your movement.
David Corey says, cuz you can't make laws in another land. Well, you can if you control that land. And this was basically over all the territory that the king was in control of. Jaguar saw this right charters. Free says major root of today's problems. Exactly, David. They still running that play today. But I thought that was interesting that the exempting them from the law meant that they had diplomatic immunity. Some people call it sovereignty, but it was basically diplomatic immunity, which your royal and your nobles of embassies here have here in the States. So then it goes on to read, with this clear mission and ample resources, the order grew rapidly. Templars were often the advanced shock troops in key battles of the Crusades, as they heavily armored knights on their war horses would set out to charge at the enemy ahead at the main army bodies in an attempt to break opposition lines. One of their most famous victories was in 1177 during the Battle of Montgisard, where some 500 Templar knights helped several thousand infantry to defeat Saladin's army of more than 26,000 soldiers. Wait, what? I gotta read this again. It says one of their most famous victories was in 1177 during the Battle of Montgisard, where some 500 Templar knights. So that means that these were only 10% of the Templars. That means there were 5,000. Helped several thousand infantry to defeat Saladin's army of more than 26,000 soldiers. Although the primary mission of the order was militaristic, relatively few members were combatants. The others acted in support positions to assist the knights and to manage the financial infrastructure. The Templar order, though through its members were sworn to individual poverty, was given control of wealth beyond direct donations. A nobleman who was interested in participating in the Crusades might place all his assets under Templar management while he was away.
You seeing the picture? Are y'all seeing the picture? You going off to fight. While you fighting, they holding on to your possessions. What happens if you don't come back?
David Corey, you know you ain't supposed to be asking questions like that, David.
Rights.
Would you say squatters' rights? David Corey asking questions. Man, why are you thinking like that? He said, how they know it was just 26,000? They counted them. Everybody did a head count. I'm just playing. Remember, who's writing the story? Says Mike Easton says the king get to take it to. Hold on. He said the knights get to take it to the king gets to take all of your land and all of your belongings. So here's something that I don't know if many people know this, that when politicians go into office, especially when you start getting into the federal level, like when you get to join the Senate and the House and you become president, you have to put all of your assets into what is known as a blind trust. And a blind trust is a trust that is supposed to be operated solely by somebody else that you have no access to and you cannot touch until after your term is up. That's exactly what this sounds like.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Just the names changed.
It says a nobleman who was interested in participating in the Crusades might place all his assets under Templar management while he was away, accumulating wealth in this manner throughout Christendom and the Outremer. The order in 1150 began generating letters of credit for pilgrims journeying to the Holy Land. Wait. It stops. Letters of credit for pilgrims journeying to the Holy Land? What is these letters of credit? What is this? Who are they?
But Jay said something in the chat too.
What'd he say?
Don't the United States Treasury operates with impunity? Think about it. It's the same thing. What were knights to do? What was a knight? A knight was sworn to protect the innocent, the people, right? Represent them. And who did he answer to? Politicians are elected to do what? And who do they answer to? Same system, different names, relatives.
Grand Rising, Derek Jones. Hope all is well.
And who's behind it all? The bank. Everybody talk about the bank hijacking. When did the bank hijack? You seen when the bank hijacked? At the creation of it.
Grand Rising, Celestial Love. So let's look at this letter of credit. Did I put the link in the chat? No, I did not. It goes on to read that the letter of credit, or as they call it, LC, also known as documentary credit or banker's commercial credit or letter of undertaking, LOU, not to be confused with LOL, is a payment mechanism used in international trade to provide an economic guarantee from a creditworthy bank to an exporter of goods. Letters of credit are used extensively in financing of international trade, where the reliability of the contracting parties cannot be readily and easily determined. Its economic effect is to introduce a bank as an underwriter, where it assumes the credit risk of the buyer paying the seller for goods. This is what they do today. But
Same system, different names.
But instead of a letter of credit, you get a credit card, or you get a loan.
Same mechanism, different terminologies.
And that's it. Right, and your underwriter is the one that determines your credit worthiness. I got one word for that. All right. Let's get back to this. It goes on to read. Pilgrims deposited their valuables with a local Templar preceptory before embarking. Received a document indicating the value of their deposit, then used that document upon arrival in the Holy Land to retrieve their funds in an amount of treasure of equal value. This innovative arrangement was an early form of banking, and it may have been the first formal system to support the use of checks. It improved the safety of pilgrims by making them less attractive targets for thieves, and also contributed to the Templar coffers. Are these checks the same checks I'm thinking about?
Checks that you know today. Same thing. This is just the birth of it.
Yeah, they're spelled CHEQUE or CHECK. Check. Got it.
Checks. Now, what treasure the Knights Templar had again, y'all?
They were the bank. J. Susquehanna says, who was the king's banker and who did the United States go get a loan from to support the revolution? Oh, crap. They went to France.
France. Now we cooking.
Dudovision says traveler's checks. Stop.
Yep.
Grand Rising Golden
Now we cooking.
Man, stop playing. It says the Treasury is also behind all United States wars. They credited the CFR, and other organizations operate under them, so they operate.
Now add this onto it. In this area, you have two banking systems coming up at the same time. One believes in fair banking, no interest, none of that exists. The other believes in taxing people on holding their savings and their wealth. You know which is which?
The suspense is killing me. No, which is which?
In Islam, the banking system, interest is illegal. In the banking system that the French created, they profited off the interest. You see the collision with the two world governments, why they were really fighting? It had nothing to do with the religion. It had to do over taxation of people.
Wow.
To this day, they still fighting over there trying to put a World Bank in the same area where they was fighting at as we reading right now, trying to get control of banking.
Tighten up them hard hats, y'all. Good grief, I was not expecting this today. Okay. I think I got a concussion, Bones. Just so you know. All right. Okay. So moving on. It says, based on this mix of donations and business dealing, the Templars established financial networks across the whole of Christendom. They acquired large tracts of land, both in Europe and the Middle East. They bought and managed farms and vineyards. They built massive stone cathedrals and castles. They were involved in manufacturing, import and export. They had their own fleet of ships, and at one point they even owned the entire island of Cyprus. The Order of Knights Templar arguably qualifies as the world's first multinational corporation. Let's look at what a multinational corporation is.
Let's.
For profit. For profit. Multinational corporation or worldwide enterprise is a corporate organization that owns or controls production of goods or services in at least one country other than its home country. Black's Law Dictionary suggests that a company or company group should be considered a multinational corporation if it derives 25% or more of its revenues from out-of-home country operations. Multinational corporation can also be referred to as multinational enterprise, transnational enterprise, transnational corporation, an international corporation, or a stateless corporation. There are subtle but real differences between these three labels, as well as multinational corporation and worldwide enterprise. So, no, Celestial Love, we're not talking about nonprofit. These are for-profit entities. The nonprofits were your Indians. That's how they operated. They operated from a nonprofit standpoint. Yeah, David, most are under the guise of nonprofit, but because of the way that they operate and because of the way that the nonprofit works, people are assuming that they are for-profit. Jay Sasquana says taxation, land, and power is what they were fighting for. Exactly. Where were we? So let's talk about the decline, and then we'll go on to the Ottoman Empire. Nope, we got to go to their counterparts. It says in mid-12th century, the tide began to turn in the Crusades. The Muslim world had become more united under effective leaders such as Saladin. Dissension arose amongst Christian factors in the concerning the Holy Land, and concerning the Holy Land. The Knights Templar were occasionally at odds with other Christian military orders, the Knights Hospitaller and the Teutonic Knights. And decades of internecine feuds weakened Christian positions, both politically and militarily. After the Templars were involved in several unsuccessful campaigns, including the pivotal Battle of Haiti, Jerusalem was recaptured by Muslim forces under Saladin in 1187. The Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II reclaimed the city of Christians in the Sixth Crusade in 1229, without Templar aid, but only held it briefly for a little more than a decade. In 1244, an Ayyubid dynasty, together with Khwarezmi, mercenaries recaptured Jerusalem, and the city did not return to Western control until 1917, when World War I, the British recaptured it from the Ottoman Empire. So in the late 1100s, or the 12th century, is when the Knights of Templar started to have cracks in what was going on in their world. All right. So, who were these other fractions, and where did they come from? And why were there some differences? You have the Swiss Guards. The Swiss Guards are Swiss soldiers who have served as guards at foreign Europe courts since the late 15th century. Foreign military service was outlawed by the revised Swiss Federal Constitution of 1874, with the only exception being Pontifical Swiss Guard. The modern Papal Swiss Guard serves as both a ceremonial unit and a bodyguard, established in 1506. It is one of the oldest military units in the world. It is also the smallest army in the world. I thought the Swiss were neutral. That's number one. Number two, in the 1500s, Russia started attacking the Swiss, and it seemed like everybody was coming after the Swiss. I wonder why that is. Maybe to discuss it here. Just something I want y'all to pay attention to. The earliest Swiss Guard unit to be established on a permanent basis was the 100 Swiss, Cent Suisse, which served at French court from 1490 to 1817. Grand Rising Trabab.
Peace.
This small force was complemented in 1567 by a Swiss Guards regiment. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, several other Swiss Guard units existed for periods of various European courts. In addition to small household and palace units, Swiss mercenaries regiments have served as regular line troops in various armies, notably those of France, Spain, and Naples regiments. I'm going to say that one more again. Swiss mercenary regiments have served as regular line troops in various armies, notably those of France, Spain, and Naples. They were considered the most effective mercenaries of the 15th century until the Landsknechts, which are German mercenary pikemen, outmatched the Swiss battle drill at the Battle of Marignano in 1515. The Landsknechts in French service defeated the Swiss pikemen, ending their preeminence. J. Sasquana says, just to be clear, what a banking thing it was. John Adams and Ben Franklin, who first went to France to gain support militarily and financial aid. It was France who took them to Venice, Sensor Love says, are the Swiss supposedly neutral because they have all the money?
Let's look at neutral, y'all. See, the problem is, over time, things get diluted. When you're calling neutral, what does that really mean? It's free to go in any direction. They're neutral because they have no allegiance to no other nation. They do as they please. They're not tied in if somebody invaded this country, they gotta help. They have no allegiance to no land but themselves. That's what neutral means in this case.
But because of that, they don't they're not, what's the best way to put it? Like you said, they have no allegiance. They're not tied to anybody. They don't owe anybody anything. That's fine for a country because they provide what you would consider a sanctuary, supposedly. Meaning that when you're on that territory, nothing's going to be allowed to happen to you. That's different than somebody being neutral. Because a person that is neutral, I've never seen this, and I've never witnessed it, so I can only speak from personal opinion. I've never known a neutral person to provide any safety for anybody when they're cool with two sides that don't get along. They don't do that. What they do is gather intel and don't say nothing to anybody and let those two warring factions war and stay out of it. To me, that's not neutral. That's a coward. Because if you know somebody's doing wrong and they can harm somebody and you don't say nothing, that's being neutral in today's terminology. That's why I stay away from anybody claiming to be neutral, because if someone's going to hurt my family and you know it, you're not going to say anything. That makes you worse than a person that's going to cause my family harm. That's just my experience. So if you can find some situation to where a person being neutral provides safety for both parties involved, please provide it. I would love to see it. But in my 49 years of being on this planet, I have yet to see where one person who is cool with everybody provides a neutral surface for everybody and allows everybody to move around safely. They normally are like the matador with the red cape and let the bull pass. So, moving on. So we're talking about the Swiss. We're talking about the Swiss Guard and their neutrality. At this particular time, they're not even neutral. They're not considered neutral. They don't become neutral until they become Switzerland. So right now, they have a royal guard. It says there were two different corps of Swiss mercenaries performing guard duties for the kings of France. The 100 Swiss, which were Cent Suisse, serving with the palace and essentially bodyguards and ceremonial troops, and the Swiss guards guarding the entrances and outer perimeter. In addition to the Gardes Suisse, served in the field as a fighting regiment in times of war. Francis I of France used some 120,000 Swiss mercenaries in Italian wars. After perpetual peace of 1516, a separate soldenice or a service pact between the Swiss Confederacy and the Kingdom of France was concluded in 1521, allowing the service of Swiss mercenary regiments as regular parts of the French armed forces. This arrangement outlasted 3 centuries, with 4 Swiss regiments participating in the French invasion of Russia. In 1812, foreign military service of Swiss citizens being finally outlawed in 1848 with the formation of Switzerland as a federal state. So that answers the questions, hopefully. Golden Moon says Knights Templar, Freemasons, Masonic Lodge, Red Cross, Pope military in every faction. Okay. Jay Sasquana says, who was hiding amongst them? That's a good question, Jay. Big Hawk says, I wonder if the Knights Templar is part of this Marine song. It's possible. I think Dudovision mentioned something about that. Let's see where we at. See, Big Hog, you got your answer. Okay, so where am I at? So it says 100 Swedes were created in 1480 when Louis XI retained a Swiss company for its personal guard. By 1496, they comprised 100 guardsmen. Plus about 27 officers and sergeants. Their main role was the protection of the king within the palace as a guard du Didans du Lever. But it is the earlier part of their history they accompanied the king to war. In the Battle of Pavia, the 100 Swiss of France were slain before Francis was captured by the Spaniards. The 100 Swiss shared the indoor guard with the king's bodyguards, garde du corps, who were Frenchmen. The 100 Swiss were armed with halberds, a blade of which carried the royal arms in gold, as well as gold-hilted swords. Their ceremonial dress was worn until 1789, comprised an elaborate 16th century Swiss custom covered with braiding and livery lace. A less ornate dark blue and red uniform with bearskin headdress was worn for ordinary duties. The Saint Suisse Company was disbanded after Louis XVI of France left the Palace of Versailles in October 1789. It was, however, refounded on July 15, 1814, with an establishment of 136 guards and 8 officers. The 100 Swiss accompanied Louis XVIII into exile in Belgium the following year and returned with him to Paris following the Battle of Waterloo. The unit then resumed its traditional role to palace guards at the Tuileries, but in 1817 it was replaced by a new guard company drawn from the French regiments of the Royal Guard. Grand Rising, Alton Clay. Swarth Vader. Doodle Vision says, why did they paint that sultan with a giant onion on his head? James, you may have to come in and answer that question, because I don't know. Let's see. Where am I at?
Before you go on, I was going to just read something up on Switzerland real quick.
Go ahead.
All right. It says Switzerland is a confederation of states of which each one has its own history. In the Middle Ages, various Swiss cantons had only families of feudal nobility and some ennobled families abroad. In Switzerland, there was a great number of families of dynasties who were vassals of the Holy Roman Empire, of the House of Savoy, or of the Kingdom of Burgundy. This diversity prevented the birth of a state with monarchical central authority. In Switzerland, since the 14th century, 3 modes of nobility can be distinguished, except for particular cases. 1. Nobility acquired under the terms of the family right, i.e. by direct line, male and legitimate since 16th century. Number 2. Nobility resulting from the concession or the reincarnation of a sovereign, which can be one monarch or a collective sovereign. This may be individual, family, or collective concessions. The sovereign can also recognize an ennoblement conceded to one of his subjects by a foreign sovereign. Also, there exists.
Stop. Read that part again.
Mm-hmm. The sovereign can also recognize an ennoblement conceded to one of his subjects by a foreign sovereign.
So,
also, their exits. It says rewards and noblements, conceding only the possessions of a title. And number 3 states nobility acquired by integration. For example, Afri in 15th century, this is Rifi in 1577, Pontohoris in 1443, Vivi in 1523, Vandale in 1526, Hughes in 1544. This integration frequently results from a social rise and one of more alliances with families belonging already to the nobility. Sometimes this was accompanied by the acquisition of a noble domain. The Seigneur of Miseries was bought in 1547 by Joseph Freytag, who was consequently qualified as a noble by buying it. It says in Switzerland, where the social classes were closer than in other countries, there is neither misalliance nor loss of nobility due to the engaging in manual work or taking up of a trade. So the noble Jean Gambich was a manufacturer in 1442, and the noble Louis de Gratu was a trader at the end of the 18th century. The only cases of loss of nobility were illegitimacy or voluntary renunciation. The last case was met in Freiburg in order to be able to reach the load of, Burnett? It was in particular the case for some lines of the families, Fergie, Gotru, Reynolds, and Riffrey. So each canton had its own constitution, its currency, its jurisdiction, its habits and customs, its history, and so its own nobility. Basically getting to more of why they get the neutral thing, because too many royal people from particular families live in close variation for them to be under one particular rule.
And did you say they could buy nobility, purchase it?
Yeah. It's basically the land of where all your nobles hang out at. Your noble families, this is where they were living at.
Like the Hamptons.
In close proximity to each other.
Like the Hamptons in New York?
Basically. Just a little quick history to put it all in context real quick.
Much appreciated. Oh, you talking about the hat on this PowerPoint? Dudovision says $5 Indians equals bought nobility. Basically.
Yep.
Same people.
Doing the same thing they always been doing. I'll buy that for $1.
I won't sell it though. Now, weren't your now James, aka Doodlevision, aka Choctaw Jimmy, weren't the Swiss guards? Weren't they the guards for the Protestant church, whereas the Templars were guards for the Catholic Church, and that's where the division came in? Correct me if I'm wrong. While I'm waiting for a response, I'll go ahead and get ready for the next. Oh, flip it. Really? So the Knights Templar were the guards for the Protestant, and the Swiss guards were the guards for the Catholic Church? Okay, Swiss guards still protect the Vatican. Okay, got it. Okay. That's why I said flip it. Thank you, sir. Alright, Bones. So what we got next is the Ottoman Empire. I know you ready for this. I don't know if I'm ready for this. Just being real. I don't know. Yeah, Antonio Battisti says, not sure about the Swiss Guard, but the Templars are traditionally looked at as enemies of the Catholic Church. Okay. Yeah. Antonio basically said the same thing the Doodle Vision said. Okay, y'all. Ottoman Empire, aka cousins of the Isa. So I put the link in the chat. So here we go. The Ottoman Empire, Ottoman Turkish, literally the exalted Ottoman state, modern Turks, historically known to its inhabitants and Eastern world as Rome, and known in the Western world, Western Europe, as the Turkish Empire, or simply Turkey.
But what was this known as? What was his name first known as?
Rome. Wait, Rome? Hold on. Stop.
TMH said his name, like his name was Jerome. I didn't realize. Like, Rome. Hold up. Rome.
Stop it.
Yeah, that's Jerome. No, wait a minute. Rome. It's all right. It's all right.
David Corey says, not Jerome. Historically known to its inhabitants in the Eastern world as Rome, and known in Western Europe as the Turkish Empire, and simply Turkey. Mike Easton says it was Rome, right? Because they end up taking over Rome. It says it was the state that controlled much of Southeast Europe, Western Asia, and North Africa between the 14th and the 20th centuries. It was founded at the end of the 13th century in northwestern Anatolia in the town of Sogut, modern-day Bilkik province. So Sogut is now known as the Bilkik province by the Oxud's Turkish tribal leader Osman I. Although initially the dynasty was of Turkic origin, it was thoroughly Persianized in terms of language, culture, literature, and habits. After 1354, the Ottomans crossed into Europe, and with the conquest of the Balkans, the Ottoman Beylik was transformed into a transcontinental empire. The Ottomans ended the Byzantine Empire with the 1453 conquest of Constantinople by Mehmed the Conqueror. During the 16th and 17th centuries, at the height of its powers under the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Empire was a multinational, multilingual empire controlling most of the Southeast Europe, parts of Central Europe, Western Asia, parts of Eastern Europe, and the Caucasus, North Africa, and Horn of Africa. Good grief. That's a lot. See what's going on in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Easton said that's what you get King Xerxes from. Remember the movie 3000?
300.
David Corey says, like Barn used to say, Rome and Rome. All right. Next paragraph. Hold on, I didn't read. I gotta finish reading this part. It says at the beginning of the 17th century, the empire contained 32 provinces, and numerous vassal states. Some of these were later absorbed into the Ottoman Empire, while others were granted various types of autonomy during the course of centuries. With Constantinople as its capital and control of lands around the Mediterranean basin, the Ottoman Empire was the center of the interactions between the Eastern and Western worlds for 6 centuries. While the empire was once thought to have entered a period of decline following the death of Suleiman the Magnificent, this view is no longer supported by the majority of academic historians. The empire continued to maintain a flexible and strong economy, society, and military throughout the 17th and much of the 18th century. However, during a long period of peace from 1740 to 1768, the Ottoman military system fell behind that of their European rivals, the Habsburg and Russian empires. The Ottomans consequently suffered severe military defeats in the late 18th and 19th centuries, which prompted them to initiate a comprehensive process to reform the modernization known as Tanzimat. Thus, over the course of the 19th century, the Ottoman state became vastly more powerful and organized despite suffering further territorial losses, especially in the Balkans, where a number of new states emerged. In the early 20th century, the empire allied with Germany, hoping to escape from diplomatic isolation, which had contributed to its recent territorial losses. Hold on, wait. In the 20th century, the empire allied with Germany. Why would they ally with Germany? It says hoping to escape from the diplomatic isolation which had contributed to its recent territorial losses and thus joined World War I on the side of the Central Powers. While the empire was able to largely hold its own during the conflict, it was struggling with internal dissent, especially with Arab revolt in its Arabian holdings. During this time, genocide was committed by the Ottoman government against the Armenians, Assyrians, and Pontic Greeks. Quick question. Was this genocide ethnic cleansing? Anybody?
Well.
David Corsi, that's where the ghettos come from. That explains why they would join with Germany. Because at that time, Germany was doing ethnic cleansing as well. We're always trying to lighten us up. What's going on? That's crazy. Exactly, David Core. Ethnic cleansing of swarthy people. Oh, the dubs. Us. The empire defeated and the occupation. The empire is defeated in the occupation of part of its territory by the Allied powers, and the aftermath of World War I resulted in its partitioning and loss of its Middle Eastern territories, which were divided between the United Kingdom and France. The successful Turkish War of Independence against the occupying Allies led to the emergence of the Republic of Turkey in the Anatolian heartland and abolition of the Ottoman monarch. Stop right quick. Who were part of the Allied powers? Y'all know? I'll tell you. Put it in a link. And the reason why is because there's something I want y'all to see. Okay. So the Allied powers are France, the British Empire, Russia, Japan, Italy, United States. And then it goes on to deal with the associated allied powers and co-belligerents. But we're not even going to touch this. We're going to talk about the allied powers. France, the British Empire, Russia, Japan, Italy, and the United States. Now here's a question. At this time during World War I, who was considered to have the most powerful army? We have to take out the United States because they didn't become a powerful army until World War II. At this time, who had the most powerful army according to history? Anybody know? Great Britain, right? It was Great Britain. So why am I stating that? Because if you really want to know who was in control or who has been in control the whole time, let's look at this. It says, the empire's defeat and the occupation of part of its territory by the Allied powers in the aftermath of World War I resulted in its partitioning and losses of its Middle Eastern territories, which were divided between the United Kingdom and France. Where's the United States? Where's Japan?
Made it back just in time.
Where's Italy? Where's Russia? Why is it just the United Kingdom and France that divides up this land when the Allied powers are France, British Empire, Russia, Japan, Italy, and United States? Now y'all starting to see who's really in power?
DBAs.
So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. That was something that stood out to me. So the word Ottoman is a historical Anglicization of names of Osman the First, the founder of empire and the ruling house of Osman, known as the Ottoman dynasty. Osman's name in turn was the Turkish from the Arabic name Uthman in Ottoman Turkish. The empire was referred to as Devleti Ayyi Osmaniye, literally the Supreme Ottoman State, or alternatively Osmanli Devleti. In modern Turkish, it is known as Osmanli İmparatorluğu. Osmanli İmparatorluğu, the Ottoman Empire, or the Ottoman State. The Turkish word for Ottoman, Osmanli, originally referred to the tribal followers of Osman in the 14th century and subsequently came to be used to refer to the empire's military administrative elite. In contrast, the term Turk was used to refer to the Anatolian peasant and the tribal population, and was seen as as a disparaging term when applied to urban, educated individuals. In the early modern period, the educated urban dwelling Turkish speaker who was not a member of the military administrative class would often refer to himself neither as an Osmanli nor a Turk, but rather as Rumi or Roman. Wait. Stop. Hold up. So they were calling themselves It says the Turkish speaker, who was not a member of the military administrative class, would often refer to himself as neither a Osmanli nor as a Turk, but rather as a Rumi, or Roman, meaning an inhabitant of the territory of the former Byzantine Empire in the Balkans and Anatolia. The term Rumi was also used to refer to Turkish speakers by the other Muslim peoples of the empire and beyond. As applied to Ottoman Turkish speakers, this term began to fall out of use at the end of the 17th century, and instead the word increasingly became associated with the Greek population of the empire, a meaning that it still bears in Turkey today. So you mean to tell me that the original Romans after the Byzantine Empire were actually the Turks and the Ottomans that took over? And it only became associated with the Greeks after the 1700s? Am I the only one that knows this, or did just find this out? Am I late to the party? Am I the last person to the party? I feel like it. That's crazy. David Vision says Da Vinci Code. Oh, he was talking to Antonio. Let's see. Where do I go back to? So the Greek population didn't inherit the term Roman until after it was no longer associated with the Turks. Vision says, I got booted off YouTube like backs again. That's why you need to be in here on the panel, James. LJ Free says, so
who are the Romans again then?
The Romans are the Turks for the Ottoman Empire. They're not the Greeks.
What?
I got one word for that. That's all I'm gonna say about that. She's Free says, so we know nowhere means black. So how is the term now no longer in use unless they killed them off or mixed them out of existence? Very good point, Free. And of course, due to Vision being on time, says romancing the stone. So the Romans are your Ottoman Turks. And they were the Romans who defeated the Byzantine Empire Romans, who were your dub nobles and commoners, who end up being killed, and the ones that survived were then transported to the United States, Australia, and Africa. So if you want to make a noble who is dark or black appear to be African, where do you send them first before you send them to America? Just thought. I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. Goes on to read that in Western Europe, the two names Ottoman Empire and Turkey were often used interchangeably, with Turkey being increasingly favored both in formal and informal studies. The dichotomy was officially ended.
Hold up, Tim, man. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Something just clicked.
What?
Remember over the sovereignty part when we was reading about the Swiss families?
Yeah.
That it can be transferred if it's recognized by a foreign sovereign 2.
Mm-hmm.
So now what happens if in your homeland you get sent off to a colony in a foreign land? Isn't that a foreign sovereign recognizing you, therefore allowing them to strip your titles and nobility in your land now?
Yeah. Which is a what?
Yeah, just something that just clicked in.
That's a
Like,
what?
hold on.
That's a what? 15th Amendment, 14th Amendment? Which one is it?
No, I'm talking about what we was reading about what the Switzerland was doing.
Oh, okay.
When they were saying about the families, how they were saying that they can buy nobility,
Right.
and they can transfer nobility. All it needs, even if a sovereign recognize it. So meaning if we had a colony in North America, that's a sovereign. It's on a whole nother landmass.
Right.
So if I sent a noble person that used to be in power, I sent him to America. You accepted him in your colony. I can transfer his title now to whoever I want to give it to.
Gotcha. Got one word for that. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Moving on.
Crazy to say the least.
Very crazy to say the least. We're gonna need some more hard hats. In Western Europe, the two names Ottoman Empire and Turkey were often used interchangeably, with Turkey being increasingly favored both in formal and informal situations. The dichotomy, was that the right word? Dichotomy, D-I-C-H-O-T-O-M-Y. The dichotomy was officially ended in 1920 through 1923 when the newly established Ankara-based Turkish government chose Turkey as a sole official name. Most scholarly historians avoid the terms Turkey, Turks, and Turkish when referring to the Ottomans due to the empire's multinational character. The battle on the planet is still the Vikings versus the swarthy peoples.
They got you looking east and west. They coming down from the north on top of your head.
Or as one would say, Doodle Vision, the Fingals versus the Dovgals.
Man, I don't even like Rams.
Muskogee G says barbarians versus nobles. I mean, all those apply. All those apply. So we see how all this comes into play, right? And what's going on and why it's taking place. I mean, I'm going to talk about the rise of the Ottoman Empire for a little bit before we head on out. So, the rise from 1299 through 1493. Rise of the Ottoman Empire. It reads, as the Seljuk Sultanate of Rome declined in 13th century, Anatolia was divided into a patchwork of independent Turkish principalities known as the Anatolian Beyliks. One of these beyliks in the region of Bithynia on the frontier of the Byzantine Empire was led by the Turkish tribal leader Osman I, a figure of obscure origins from whom the name Ottoman is arrived. Osman's early followers consisted both of Turkish tribal groups and Byzantine renegades. Many but not all converts to Islam. Osman extended the control of his principality by conquering Byzantine towns along the Sakarya River. A Byzantine defeat at the Battle of Baphius in 1302 contributed to Osman's rise as well. It is not well understood how the early Ottomans came to dominate their neighbors. Due to lack of sources surviving from this period, the Gaza theory, popular during the 20th century, credited their success to their rallying of religious warriors to fight for them in the name of Islam. But it is now highly criticized and no longer generally accepted by historians, and no consensus on the nature of the early Ottoman state expansion has replaced it. Doodle Vision says, you're trying to head out early, TMH. No, I'm trying to recover from this concussion I got from the information you dropped yesterday, Doodoo. LJ Free says, searched until the ends of the world for you, and descended down from Canada, Acadia, like a plague. I'm not leaving early. Calm down. Why they ganging up on me, Bones?
They were like, hold on, leaving early. What? It ain't time to go. It ain't time to go.
Dude, you can come in and help. Lift some of this weight, bro. You put the he put the weights on the bar and walked away from the bench like, you got this.
That is not a good spotter. I don't advise you to ever go back to the gym with that person.
got 4 25-pound plates on each side. And gonna tell me I got it. Doodle Vision says, I noticed it took a while to locate the adversary of the Knights of Templar. They are erasing these people right before our eyes. Yeah, they are. That's why this is being recorded externally onto a encrypted hard drive.
Oh man, gotta get another one now. Let me stop.
He's so stupid. He's so stupid. He's so stupid. Anyway, see, pick it with me. Here we go. In the century after the death of Osman I, Ottoman rule began to extend over Anatolia and the Balkans. Osman's son, Orhan, captured the northeastern Anatolia city of Bursa in 1326, making it the new capital of Ottoman state and supplanting Byzantine control in the region. The important port city, Thessaloniki, was captured from the Venetians in 1387 and sacked. The Ottoman victory at Kosovo in 1389 effectively marked the end of Serbian power in the region, paving the way for Ottoman expansion into Europe. Now remember, this is also happening at the same time that the Northern Wars are going on. The Battle of Nicopolis in 1396, widely regarded as the last large-scale crusade of the Middle Ages, failed to stop the advance of the victorious Ottoman Turks. As the Turks expanded into the Balkans, the conquest of Constantinople became a crucial objective. The Ottomans had already wrestled control of nearly all former Byzantine lands surrounding the city, but the heavy defense of Constantinople's strategic position on the Bosphorus Strait made it difficult to conquer. Now remember, again, you have the Northern Wars going on at the same time this is going on. And those Northern Wars are doing what? The Mongols are pushing those albinos, as it was called on that website, aka the Finn Vikings into the Caucasus Mountains and also pushing them into Rome. At the same time, the Ottomans are coming and they're flanking Rome. Doodle Vision says, exchange Ottomans with Turks and exchange them with Moors. So you saying exchange Ottomans with Turks and then exchange who with Moors?
Turks with Moors.
Oh, okay. I just was confirming. So now Ottomans equal Turks equals Moors. Got it. So these were your dubbed Vikings. Yes? Some were? No. Jaguar said turban boys. It says then it will make sense of the Americas.
I say wraparound game serious.
Okay, so it says, as the Moors expanded into the Balkans and conquest of Constantinople became a crucial objective, the Moors had already wrested control of nearly all former Byzantine lands surrounding the city, but the heavy defense of Constantinople's strategic position of Bosphorus Strait made it difficult to conquer. In 1402, the Byzantines were temporarily relieved when Turco-Mongol leader Timur, founder of the Timurid Empire, invaded Ottoman Anatolia from the east. In the Battle of Ankara in 1402, Timur defeated the Ottoman forces and took Sultan Bayezid as a prisoner, throwing the empire into disorder. The ensuing civil war, also known as the Feret Devrai, lasted from 1402 to 1413 as Bayezid's sons fought over succession. It ended when Mehmed I emerged as a sultan and restored Ottoman power. So hold on. These Mongols, they were attacking the Moors as the Moors were attacking the Romans. So they flanked them. They came up behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's crazy. The Battle of Ankara.
But listen to the years as well.
Yeah, 1402 to 1413. Doodle Vision says it was an all-out attack on two fronts. Now, did this happen because, remember, they were talking about the nobles marrying albinos to keep the peace? Was this during that time?
You got all these events going on at the same time. That's why I say the years are important.
Because that's the only way I can see why they would do that.
Timelines.
LJV says, this sounds like a body becoming infected. Macro.
Look at it this way. The Ottoman Empire was still around in the 1700s. When they show you history, they'll make you think there's a distance between these events.
Right.
Isn't the 1700s at the same time all this mess going on in America too?
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention both opium wars.
Jaguar says up to 1776.
But what happened in 1776 as well?
Benjamin Franklin goes to France.
1776 was the birth of what?
The birth of
what?
Birth of I don't want to say it.
America?
Jamestown. That's on a few license plates here in Virginia, TMH.
Is it?
I think so. Wasn't that the commemorative plates?
These are not isolated events.
It says the Balkan territories lost by the Ottomans after 1402 included Thessaloniki. Hold on, Judah says, go back 2 days ago when you had the painting of Kimbo Slice with Farrah Fawcett. Really, Judah? LJ Free says San Francisco, California was established in 1776. That should give you some perspective on how much was actually going on during that time. A whole lot was going on.
Timelines.
Okay. It says the Balkan territories lost by the Ottomans after 1402, including Thessaloniki, Macedonia, and Kosovo, were later recovered by Murad II between the 1430s and 1450s. On 10 November 1444, Murad repelled the Crusade of Varna by defeating the Hungarian, Polish, and Wallachian armies under Władysław III of Poland, also King of Hungary, and John Hunyadi in the Battle of Varna. Although Albanians under Skanderbeg continued to resist, 4 years later John Hunyadi prepared another army of Hungarian and Wallachian forces to attack the Turks, but was again defeated at the Second Battle of Kosovo in 1448. Pamela Hall says, okay, if all of this is going on, who is keeping the history right? Phantom and duplicate timelines, Pamela Hall. Phantom and duplicate timelines.
When you put it all together, you can see the shuffling of the pieces.
Expansion in the peak, 1453 to 1566. Now remember, this is a time frame to where there's ethnic cleansing in Rome, and the nobles and the commoners who are dubs are getting kicked out of Europe and sent where? America, Australia, and the continent they call Africa. It says the son of Murad II, Mehmed the Conqueror, recognized both state and military, and on 29 May 1453 conquered Constantinople. Mehmed allowed the Orthodox Church to maintain its autonomy and land in exchange for accepting Ottoman authority. Due to tensions between the states in Western Europe and the latter Byzantine Empire, the majority of the Orthodox population accepted Ottoman rule as preferable to Venetian rule. Good grief. Albanian resistance was a major obstacle to Ottoman expansion on the Italian peninsula. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the Ottoman Empire entered a period of expansion. The empire prospered under the rule of the line of committed and effective sultans. It also flourished economically due to its control of the major overland trade routes between Europe and Asia. Oh.
But hold up. Ain't this at the same time that they trying to tell you they left their shores trying to find a shorter route to Asia with this already established trade routes?
And also the trade routes that was one of the problems was, hold on, let me pull up the Amber Road, right? So anyway.
Well, remember this 1500s. There's major trade going on internationally with Indians.
Yep.
So who was the Ottoman Empire trading with internationally then? We know furs, we know corn, we know turkeys. Hint, hint.
Yeah, I know. That's how they got the name Turkey, right? And
Ahoki used to be scientifical.
Yeah, scientifical Ahoki.
Oh, so they didn't get it from being jive? Turkey came before the jive? Okay. All right.
The turkey was way before the jive, no sellout. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of added the jive after the turkey.
Okay. All right. I'm learning.
So then goes on to read, the Sultan Selim I dramatically expanded the empire's eastern and southern frontiers by defeating Shah Ismail of Safavid Persia in the Battle of Chaldiran. Selim I established Ottoman rule in Egypt by defeating and annexing Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt and created a naval presence on the Red Sea. After this Ottoman expansion, a competition started between the Portuguese Empire and the Ottoman Empire to become the dominant power in the region. Where did the Portuguese come from?
Still known as the Dutch.
Ah, that's right, Portugal. Port of Gal. Gaelic. Got it. Suleiman the Magnificent, 1520 through 1566, captured Belgrade in 1521, conquered the southern and central parts of the Kingdom of Hungary as part of the Ottoman-Hungarian Wars, and after his historic victory in the Battle of Mohawks in 1526, he established Turkish rule in the territory of present-day Hungary, except the western part, and the other Central European territories. He then laid siege on Vienna in 1529, but failed to take the city. In 1532, he made another attack on Vienna, but was repulsed in the siege of Guns, Transylvania. Oh, the siege of Guns, Transylvania, or Guns, Transylvania. Wallachia and intermittently Moldavia became tributary principalities of the Ottoman Empire. In the east, the Ottoman Turks took Baghdad from the Persians in 1535, gaining control of Mesopotamia and naval access to the Persian Gulf in 1555. The Caucasus became officially partitioned for the first time between the Safavids and the Ottomans, a status quo that would remain until the end of the Russo-Turkish War. Remember that war? The Northern War. That was part of the Russo-Swedish War. or the Northern Wars, by the partition of the Caucasus as decided in peace of Masaya, Western Armenia, Western Kurdistan, and Western Georgia. Includes Western Samski. It fell into Ottoman hands, while southern Dagestan, eastern Armenia, eastern Georgia, and Azerbaijan remained Persian. It says France and the Ottoman Empire, united by mutual opposition to Habsburg rule, became strong allies. Hold on. Hold on. France and the Ottoman Empire, united by mutual opposition of Habsburg rule, became strong allies. The French conquest of Nice in 1543 and Corsica in 1553 occurred as a joint venture between the forces of the French King Francis I and Suleiman, and were commanded by the Ottoman admirals Barbarossa, Hayreddin Pasha, and Turgut Reis. So wait a minute. Hold on. The Turks, or the Moors, overran Rome, who was receiving help from time to time from France, remember? I know, Jack, about political allies, but can you really trust the French? I'm just saying. Can you?
We.
So I guess the French, when they realized that the Moors was coming, they decided to moonwalk on out of assistance and not help the Romans, and let them get mollywopped. Then after they get mollywopped and sent off, the French then come back and be like, "Hey, we have a mutual enemy, Habsburg. Let's team up and fight together." Let's put this in proper perspective. Hey, we will both have the same kind of enemy, the United States government. We're both being persecuted and have the police bother us. Let's team up and form the NAACP and get our rights. How's that any different? I'll wait.
Not to mention, when my rights were being violated, you was across the street recording it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, but no thanks.
What about the time?
Doodle Vision said the French did the same thing in World War I and World War II. Man, they sleight of hand is fierce. Don't underestimate.
What? Masters of the 52 fake out. Mastered it. You done laid all your cards out. You done laid the whole deck out. They ain't even break the plastic on their deck.
That run pass option ain't nothing to play with. It says by the end of Suleiman's reign, the empire spanned approximately 877,888 square miles, extending over 3 continents. 3 continents. In addition, the empire became a dominant naval force, controlling much of the Mediterranean Sea. By the time the Ottoman Empire was a major part of the European political sphere, the Ottomans became involved in multi-continental religious wars when Spain and Portugal were united under the Iberian Union. The Ottomans, as holders of the Caliph title, meaning leader of the Muslim world, had Iberians as leaders of the Christian crusaders, were locked in World War conflict, while zones of operations in the Mediterranean Sea and Indian Ocean, where Iberians circumnavigated Africa to reach India, and in the way waged wars upon the Ottomans and their local Muslim allies. And likewise, the Iberians passed through newly Christianized Latin America, a base of Latin America, and has sent expeditions that traversed the Pacific in order to Christianize formerly Muslim Philippines. The Philippines were Muslim? And,
Yes, they are.
and use it as easternmost vassals and territory. The Sultanate of Ak, or Aki, in Southeast Asia during the 1600s in worldwide population, technology, and economic levels. Nevertheless, the success of the Ottoman political and military establishment was compared to the Roman Empire by the likes of Italian scholar Francesco Sansovino and the French political philosopher Jean Bodin. James Flames, can you do me a favor and come on to the panel and break down, or if you could do it, Bones, that's fine. Break down how the Ottomans being neutral or being so accommodating ended up being their downfall. Can you touch on that? Can somebody touch on that? Anybody?
Yeah, I think James said he was coming on. Give him a minute.
Because this is important. And I need people to understand. And I'm going to bang this horse until it resurrects. That being neutral and just being a witness of something because you want to be friends with people, that ain't cool. There's right and wrong. And if you choose not to call out people when they do wrong, you're wrong. Especially if you know that they're doing wrong. You know, that's spineless to me if you ask me. You're quick to call out wrong to everybody else, but you don't want to call out wrong to your brothers and sisters that's doing wrong. And I don't know if you ever thought about this, but they might not even think they're doing wrong because no one that's close to them is telling them that they're doing wrong. So here's a piece of advice for those people that want to be neutral. If you're going to be neutral when people you know are doing wrong, then you use the right to open your mouth when you see people that you don't know doing wrong. Because you're being a hypocrite.
There you go. Drop it like it's hot.
Greetings, Brother James. What's going on?
Peace, James.
Coming in. Michael Checker.
Oh, made it in.
There he is.
Live in effect.
So I was lamenting, that's what we're gonna call it what it is, ranting about this whole neutral thing. And you had mentioned to us how the Ottoman Turks or the Moors being neutral end up costing them their empire. Would you elaborate on that, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Because this goes back to conceding land, and that's why I was mentioning earlier. Exchange the Ottomans with the Turks. Exchange those Turks with Moors, and if you want to go back earlier than that with other names, Hittites. Same folk, same people. When they started to concede land, because again, remember, when you putting in Moors, they started being removed or kicked out of Spain, right? Then they were kicked out of England, and they started getting kicked out of all other places of Europe and forced south and forced into what we know now as North Africa. All in that region. They were pushed to the southern shores of Europe and Asia and into North Africa. That's why I say again that Islam did not start in Africa. It came to Africa from the north. So they were conceding land and continue to concede land and being attacked on every side. Because again, you had the Vikings on one side, you had the Mongols or Mongolians on the other side, and they were being squashed in the middle. And this continued starting into World War I and World War II. Find out why these world wars started. And they still go on to this day, as I mentioned yesterday. They call them social wars of Europe. Poland, remember they went through their social war, their civil war. You had Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia. I can go on and on and on. And they were talking about, oh, help them out in Bosnia. All the rest of that. And people didn't understand that this was still the ethnic cleansing. And yes, Filipinos, for the most part, are Muslim by faith. And this is why, again, the Spaniards set out to control all of the waters, because they were on a mission to put out or snuff out Islam. And when I'm saying Islam, I'm just talking about the people, the Moors, whatever faith they were. Let me rewind the tapes. They were set out to destroy the Moors. That was the Spaniards' mission. They got them out of Spain, out of Portugal, and pushed them into North Africa. But then there were others all over the world. So now you got to ask yourself, why are these places with heavily melanated people talking about one Lord? Now don't get caught up in, oh, they were Muslim, this and that. No, it was still one Lord. Or as we call them over here, the Great Spirit. Why? This is what was really leading the so-called explorers, because remember, the Spaniards were not explorers, they were conquistadors. Why are you sending warriors if you're explorers? Think about that, and I'll come back in a little bit. I yield the mic.
And remember this too, that should be interesting to some people. At the same time that the Moors are getting kicked out of Europe, isn't it funny this is the same time Protestants are being kicked out of Europe? So again, what is a Protestant? Anybody going against the Catholic Church. Protestants, protesting, protest.
It's in the name, man. That's the only way I know how to spell Protestant.
Going back to overlaid stories.
You mean they just wasn't holding up picket signs with mosquito skin vest on?
By definition, if you believed anything outside of the Catholic Church, you stood against it, what was you labeled? A Protestant.
Which is going to blow some people's minds, because by original definition, everyone that was against the Catholic Church was a Protestant. So whether you were considered a Jew, a Muslim, or a Christian, you were a Protestant because you were protesting the Catholic Church. Don't let the taste fool you. I yield the mic.
David Corey has said, so the Huguenots were on the good side. Remember, the Huguenots were on both sides. They were on the Catholic Church side, and they were on the Protestant side. The Huguenots don't pick sides. They control the board. So keep that in mind.
Yep, because you had some Huguenots that were passing as something else. You had the sellout Huguenots, same thing that you have over here today. amongst us Indians. You still got those that are true to who they are. You got the scammers. You got those that are neutral, cool with everybody. You have those that are passing as something else. So you have these different groups just within us. So think about, we throw blanket statements. Just remember that, because like I said, you have the different groups of Huguenots and those that were more melanated than others. They were still, when they would come over here as explorers, as guides. And that's why I say again, if you notice that it was always these Moors that were the captains of these ships. Even with Christopher Columbus, when they said Christopher Columbus was lost, but I guarantee you his captain wasn't lost. They were Moors, aka Ottomans, aka Turks, aka again Hittites, that had already been over here because we had already been over there. Brother Bones that told you earlier about the turkey, told you about the Turkish wheat, aka corn, maize. I told you yesterday about those peace pipes, those bongs, those hookahs. And I didn't say hookers with an ER, it's hookah with an A. What were they smoking in those hookah pipes? Tobacco and marijuana. Where did they get it from? Think about it. The Hittites, aka the Moors, the Turks, were already coming over here because they were a mixture of the people that were already here. Now go back and study Montezuma, and you'll figure out why. Some of his people did not come from the Americas. They came from another land, but they were all relatives. How do you think he moved up the ranks so quickly? I yield the mic.
Na na na. New helmets being passed out. New helmets being passed out.
You, one for you, two for you, three for me, and some shin pads, a helmet, and a full-point chin strap. Okay, I'm ready. Pamela Hall says, okay, so some of my ancestors were Moors, Turks. Again, Pamela, like we always say, like it's already been attested to, your grandparents double every generation. So by the time you get to 128 grandparents, I mean, gotta be thinking that you got some admixture there. Considering they were mixing over here for thousands of years before the colonizers got here. The French had already been up in this spot. You know, back in the day, because I'm dating myself. When you go to school, first day of school, you open up your book, your textbook, and you open it up, and on the inside cover of the textbook, it'll have a bunch of names that says so and so was here. By the time England and Spain got here, French was all over this place. They had marked the whole territory. They were everywhere. Pamela Hall says, well, I went back to 1577 in England, though. Yeah, I'm sure you did, Pamela. So I'm sure you came across some commoners, some nobles, some Scandinavians, probably some Samis. Probably came across a whole bunch of people. Exactly, Marlon P. Some of everybody in our lineage. That's why it's important to know who you are. That's why it's important to do your genealogy, because you don't know who's in your family line, who's in your family lineage.
Yep. While you banging on somebody, you may find out that there's the pappy.
And you got to remember, not only that, but you got to remember this. For everybody that watches this channel, less than 10% of the people are commenting. So that means there are a lot of people watching that never say anything. What if these are one of the tribes that you've been banging on, come to find out that's your genealogy, and now you expect them to give you access or to help you with your genealogy after you done talked all that smack. I mean, think about it. If you heard somebody talking smack about you and your people, would you help them? I mean, if you're going to be honest.
Man, nutter.
So that's my 2 cents on that. So James, can you do me a favor and go in and explain a little bit more the importance or the neutrality that the Moors had that was their demise, and why because you said they ceded a lot of land, but why was they ceding this land? And why were they giving so much flexibility to the countries that they were conquering? If you can explain.
Because they knew about the Americas. They were not expecting the other European clans and groups and nations to follow them over to the Americas. So if you have land with a fresh start and your people are over there, why would you continue to stay over in war-torn Europe when there was peace and prosperity over in the Americas? That's why I said the first group of French, I'm going to go back again. The first group of French that were coming over here, they got labeled as Huguenots, were a mixture of those Vikings and a mixture of, they were an admixture of several different groups. But part of that was they were Indians. Part of that was they were part of the Vikings that were already over there. That's why I said concentrate on those nations along the southern coast and northern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. These melanated people, and you will see the culture, the agriculture, the horticulture, and their customs mirror those over in the Americas. They don't mirror those over there in Africa. They don't. The people of the feather, the red stick people, they're here and have been here. So go back, and if you notice, especially when you start getting into 1300, 1400, keep going, you'll notice that, especially with the British Isle, they kept marrying people from France. But when you study the people that they were marrying, when they were getting their husbands and wives to be the royalty, to be the next king or queen, you'll notice they were melanated. It was to keep that allegiance going because they knew about the Goths. They knew about the Gauls. They knew about these people. So they were intermarrying, having babies, keeping the royal blood. Because if you notice at one point again, that the royal people, the royalty, no matter what nation you went into, a land you went into, these were melanated rulers. And then there's this exodus from Europe, and they come to the Americas, this mixture of people known as Huguenots. And again, if you'll notice that the Huguenots never established a colony. There was never a French colony. But when the Spaniards got here, what did they say? Everywhere we came, we kept running into these Huguenots, these swarthy people. And if you recall, the Spaniards were swarthy people. Now, here's what's going to put where the rubber meets the road. There were at least 16 establishments in the Americas, whether in Mesoamerica or North America, called Matamoras. Matamoras, Moor killers. Now, why would the Spaniards name these establishments that? If they didn't know that the people in the Americas and the people that they had kicked out of Europe were of the same bloodline. Just think about it. There's still a Matamoros today. That's just south of the Rio Grande, between Mexico and Texas. Now, I'll come back a little bit later. I yield the mic.
James, it's 10:51. I'm gonna need you to finish up. Most post haste, please, sir. We gotta get these people up out of here so they can get back to what they were doing, so they can get on with their day.
Okay, I will say this: continue to follow the breadcrumbs and why certain things are erased out of history, and they as long as we're in the digital age, they will keep erasing it daily. I've seen people in the chat say, "Hey, I was looking for this." Antonio Banderas was saying, "Hey, I was the Maiden plantation, and now I can't find it, and I just saw it the other day." That's why I said in the digital age, you can cut and paste, copy and paste, infuse anything that you want. That's why you're seeing these books that were written a long time ago, when they're scanned in and they digitize them, all of a sudden it says African American. That's not what the original text says. So you don't hear about the Vikings because then you have to explain who were the adversaries of the Vikings, aka the Swiss. Who were they fighting? So now that you know that they were fighting, and now that you know who they're fighting, you're able to follow the breadcrumbs, and they continue to fight on every continent, including the Americas. What did P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Diddy, Sean Diddy, what Daddy Combs tell you? Thought I told you that we won't stop? They have not stopped. They have not stopped. When you get dealing with those Akkadians, a branch of those Vikings, they have not stopped. Now, I want y'all to tell on yourself, but how many of y'all in that chat trying to get down with Duck Dynasty? What? Huh? What are you talking about, Willis? So, anyway.
I watched it.
You watched Duck Dynasty.
You talking about them, that group of faking people?
Yeah, I ended up watching it when they came out. I did too.
No.
And they told you that all them colors were happy out there picking that cotton out there in the sugar cane fields and all that stuff. Those people, yeah. Bobby Boucher's defensive coordinator on Waterboy. See, you start understanding who these people are and what they do. You're going to figure it out. Keep following the breadcrumbs. Now, I'm going to give you a hint. I've said it before, many moons ago. Can anyone tell me what the name of Method Man's first solo album was from the Wu-Tang? I yield the mic.
You mean his first album or his second album?
First solo.
His first album.
His first album was Method Man. His second album was Tikal.
I'm sorry. Yes, the second album.
Yeah, second album was Tikal. Tical.
Next, change that C with a K.
David Corey said tickle.
No, Tikal.
Tikal.
Tikal was the official establishment, the official capital when the Mayans reunited, because it's called Tikal or Tikal today, but initially it was called Yaks Mutal or Mutal, and they will tell you on the surface it means hair tied. But what it actually means is the reunification of the two groups of people, which is why they would tie their hair. You don't believe me? Look it up for yourself. When you get an opportunity, go talk to the elders down there, get them some tequila, and they will sit down and have a conversation with you. That's why I gave you the code word, Mateo. When you go down there and say Mateo, you're going to have his grandson, that's the interpreter, because that elder is not going to know a lick of English. And they're going to talk to you in Mayan. So then that little boy, grandson, is going to interpret what Papa is saying, or Tata is saying in English, broken English to you. Matul means more than just hair tied. That's why they established Tikal, because it was the cultures, the people that were already here, reuniting with their cousins from across the waters, the Moors that were coming over here.
That's why they say hair tie. I'd be like air tie, tying the airs back in.
Mm-hmm. So
exactly.
So I was corrected, James. It was his first album was Tikal. So you were right. I was incorrect. I was mistaken. So my apologies.
Okay, I thought so. I'm like, I know about the Woo. I knew that was like Method Man's first. Okay.
You're right. You was right. Okay, David. I said I was wrong. Good grief.
Yeah, I thought that was the first, but yeah, but it shows you, and when you actually go into Mesoamerica, you will see these names that you say, wait a minute, why do these sound like Islamic names? But then you'll realize that these names and these words were established over here and went over there. They didn't bring that over here. That's why they were able to communicate. Why do you think again, Christopher Columbus had more captains, and they were also called interpreters or translators? How did they know the language of the Indians that were here? See, those are things we never think about. You'll see such and such and such and such. The Negro was an interpreter. The Negro lived amongst the Indians. The Negro. And then when they found out that Negro was bringing the paleface, and I'll use that term as a term of endearment because that's what they were calling him, over here, then they would kill that Negro.
Wait, what?
Yes, when they would, the Negroes would be the scouts, the interpreters. And when the Indians found out that they were working for these paleface, they would kill them. I'll drop some of the books in the back chat. I'll do that with the Jesuits, where they were writing on how when they found out that these translators were actually being used, they were agents, they would kill them. Or they would hold them hostage and say, you can't get them back until you leave the land. So they don't tell you that part. But yes, how were they able to translate and interpret what the Indians were saying? Because they knew the language. I yield the mic.
I have 3 words for that. That was number 1. That was number 2. That was number 3. That's all I got to say about that. All right, we up on 11 o'clock hour. It's time to tie it all in. Let you good folks in the chat, those that are listening and are first time subscribers, the new subscribers, get on with your day. Utilize this information. You're gonna help your communities out. So with that being said, don't sell out. What salutations you got for the good people this rising?
Peace to the chat. Mic check. Okay. Yeah, peace to everybody that came out today. Appreciate the listeners, the viewers, the panel. Appreciate you, James, for showing up and busting everybody in the head 1 time, 2 times, a few times. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, and or corrections, please email us at autochtonousAssembly@gmail.com. Check out the website, check out the forum. Got a bunch of information on there. We are always there 24/7, so Don't miss us. Peace, y'all.
Appreciate you. Do the vision, aka James Flames, aka Choctaw Jimmy, resident American Indian, bringing the heat. Appreciate you always. What you got for the good people to send them out on?
Oh, no problem, brother. I thought you were gonna say you're Resident Evil.
No.
The Umbrella Corporation.
Hey.
Oh man, I just want to say, just keep studying, and real soon I'm gonna drop another magic word in a couple of days that's gonna provide you further evidence of why certain things had to be eliminated, why certain things had to be wiped out. But think about it again. All of these buildings, all of these edifices that were already here, that some people are claiming that these are Roman pillars. But remember, your Roman pillars are your Greek pillars, and you find out your Greek pillars are your Minoan pillars. Then go back and find out who actually was building these edifices and continue to build them, because a particular group of people didn't like labor. So who were your carpenters? Who were your master builders? Go back to Solomon's temple. Hiram of beef.
The nobles couldn't do manual labor. Don't forget that.
So good grief, strike three. James, you mentioned the Minoans. So you said the Romans got it from the Greeks and the Greeks got it from the Minoans. Who again were the Minoans?
Thanks, Issa. The Minoans were the mixture of the cat people, the big cat people, which you find that were over here. But you talk about your jaguars, and you will see that again on the Issaquena plates, that they were fighting and had the cover of the leopards, the cats on them, that went over there and were fighting the Lesbos and were having babies by the Lesbos. I probably know that's probably another subject for another time. You go back again and you find out about Wonder Woman and what they were all about. But anyway, so that's where your Minoans come from. That's why your Minoans were melanated. So from the Minoans gave the Greeks the knowledge. So you'll read about, every time you read about, there are people that just mysteriously disappear. Well, no, they wasn't wiped off the face of the planet. They had to go somewhere. You know, it's the Minoans, they mysteriously disappeared. You had the Mayans mysteriously disappeared. All these groups of people, melanated people, that just mysteriously disappeared. They had to show up somewhere. Sometimes just best, like Dorothy, click your heels 3 times and just go back home. When you know who you are, then you can go back home. But study again. Study those Hittites and where they said the word came from and what the Hittites mean. I'm going to drop you another hint. Yo, Hittites go back to IT. And if you know what IT is, then you'll understand why the French, as we know it under Napoleon, fell where? In the Americas? Where? You better find out who you are, because when you study your genealogy, no one on this planet can stop you from being who you are once you know who you are. Stop letting them fool you. And stop fighting these straw men and find out who you really are. I appreciate the chat, the most intelligent chat on the planet. I appreciate the panel again, for the TMH, for the Bones, Brother No Sellout, for the Copper Indio, I got you, for the Carrie Bay, Lady Free. I'm not going to end y'all on a musical note. I'm just going to say Keep studying. Keep banging. Keep reaching for the stars. Casey Kasem. I'm out. I drop. It's Cotton Picking Mike.
See why I don't go after James?
Well, somebody got to go after him.
It ain't gonna be me.
Appreciate you, James, as always. It's phenomenal. Want to give a shout out again to the new subscribers, to those in the YouTube verse that are listening and just relaxing and receiving information and doing some good with it for your relatives. We know we'll hear from you in due time. You know that, well, we know that you make up a large part, if not the majority of our listening audience, so we thank you. Just because we can't see you don't mean we don't think about you and we don't appreciate you. And to the chat, the best chat, the smartest chat, the most ferocious, corrective chat. I was waiting for him to finish talking before I corrected the Method Man thing. Darn. Anyway.
He ain't lying.
We appreciate y'all for all y'all do, keeping everybody on their toes, especially me. Keep doing what you do. Take that energy of making everybody verify. Take it not take it off of YouTube, but take it everywhere you go. Because with all this information that we're finding and all of this overlaid of information and this lecto-defacilio and people always constantly lying and stretching the truth, you got to make people prove themselves. I don't care what they look like. I don't care who they sound like. I don't care who they are. Prove who you are. Prove what you say. Or go sit down somewhere. That's just me. Again, we're here to help you do your genealogy. We're here to help you become financially independent. We're here to help you put yourself in a better financial situation so that you'll be straight for the next 7 generations, for your children's children's children. So, with that, I'm going to relinquish to Mike, and Mr. Bones H. McCoy will send us out. I release to Mike.
Appreciate it. I'd like to thank the panel for always showing up and doing the remarkable job that they do. I'd like to thank the chat for always keeping it engaging and making it possible for us to keep pushing the limits on what we're uncovering in history. The listeners, because without them, none of this would be possible. We'd just be talking to ourselves, And let's don't forget, yes, we show up to a live stream to share this information. But again, when the stream ends, our journey does not. Let's make sure that this information that we come across, we document it, meaning download it to our own personal collections, print it out, have it on file, put away. If where no records are being changed and erased, why sit down and complain about it happening when we can get up and start being our own record keepers? There's no law, there's no rule that say that you cannot collect your own records. So if the problem is we see that they're erasing them, they're changing them, the solution, let's become the holders of our records again. So on that note, it's always fun when we get to kick it with the relatives. No other place we'd rather be. And until the next Rising Show, everybody have a very blissful day and peace.
Peace, y'all.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.